Hi everyone, Big Mike here, and we have finally arrived at part 4 of our GM beginner guide. And per our request, you guys have sent us in a few questions and we're going to answer them here today. And hopefully we'll answer them to your satisfaction. If not, as always, talk to us on the Facebook page, on Twitter, even here in the replies for this video, and we'll do our best to answer them, okay? So with that, let's get started with the first question. I'm starting a Pathfinder game and about half of my players are new to role-playing. I've already heard some good tips like don't just hand them the book, go through the basics first, and make sure they understand them and such. But I'd like to hear your side of things and any tips and experiences you've had. Well, you've got the biggest thing with Pathfinder. Pathfinder especially is a really big, meaty kind of game. The rulebook is among one of the biggest I've ever seen in my life. That being said, if you're going to take your players through it, really encourage them to make unique and diverse characters that don't just fall into the regular templates. They have the rest of their role-playing lives to min-max characters now. Just encourage them to look at some of the archetypes for the classes so they can kind of have some fun and just get them to really think outside the box for characters. Like look at the advanced race guide and just see what's interesting in there that they might want to pick up. My other thing is put them, for you as a GM, put them through our scenarios where the straight up normal fight isn't the only option for them. So give them situations like you're in a kitchen and there's barrels of oil. What do you want to do? Or you're on a rickety bridge and you think you could make the run. Encourage them to take advantage of the acrobatic systems in the CMB and the CMD systems, which are the close combat maneuver systems, so that they know there's more than one option than just simply hitting things to death. And really take them through a lot of strong roleplay scenarios. Give them memorable NPCs to interact with. And that'd be my big recommendation. But yes, please take them through every part of the Pathfinder system that you can and encourage them to research on their own with their characters. I just thought of a couple about world building. I'm making a brand new city in the Inner Seas region of Pathfinder. Any tips on city building specifically? Also, I'm going to have this underground cult that slowly gets more and more powerful in the city and just let the players do what they want in it. Any tips on laying clues about how obvious subtle they should be? Since this was a two-parter, let's take it up in each point. Any tips on city building specifically? Well, my first suggestion is this. See how long they're going to be spending the entire adventure campaign there. Take the time to really flesh out NPCs and things like that. A lot of the most memorable cities that you can name have unique locations and things to it to check out and things like that. The Pathfinder Ultimate Campaign book really has a good guide on how to build city stuff. So if they eventually take over the city, there's all these really great rules waiting for them for all the little stats and stuff and bonuses that they get from it. And think about all the things that need to be in a city, like tanners and butchers and bakers and candlestick makers, apothecaries, magic enchanters, things like that. Really illustrate all the resources that would be in that kind of a city and really develop them and build them up. Second thing, just give it a lot of really good personality and flavor. Make it something that's fun to run around in and that they can explore, and make it easy for them to learn it at first. Your second question was, any tips on laying clues on how obvious or subtle it should be? That goes back to my statement in video 3. Evil doesn't operate in a vacuum. And how subtle to make it? If they're first timers, because the same gentleman who asked the first question, you can be fairly obvious about it. Because what might be obvious to you might not be as obvious to the players. So start off with just murders that are conducted a specific way, and then slowly just kind of leave little bits of totems or symbols or iconography, or they're always maybe there's a certain symbol displayed, or you start to get eyewitness reports and things like that. But make it that this is just like a kind of a symptom that's sort of appearing in the city. But just as a note for subtle clues in general, whatever clue you think is obvious is never as obvious as the player is never as obvious as it is for the players. I never had much trouble with this since I had one extremely hyperactive player in my game, but I think it would be useful to hear any tactics for a GM to split the party even if they know they shouldn't. I'm not a big believer in making the party split. I'm a big believer in encouraging the party to split. And that's two very different things. Making the party split is when you do those random acts of God like an earthquake or a wall that suddenly springs up. Those to me are very cheap tactics. Now, if you consider something more like a caper, like say the Ocean's 11 film, which I use only as an example, if you have multiple things in a situation that need to happen for success to happen, then the party will split on its own. You don't even have to do anything at that point. Like, for example, consider like a normal, ordinary dungeon crawl, any kind of hallway crawl. The team should be together, working together, and being this fortified tank that proceeds through it. But if you're, say, dealing with an enemy fortress, and you know that there's water supplies, there's food supplies going in, there's multiple objectives within the building, then the party will split. They will split the resources and the time. So honestly, the best thing, it's really the carrot over the stick. Give them multiple things that they can do at that site and a time that each of them can deal with, and just give them a small time frame. It's really not that hard. But that's honestly my best recommendation. What happens if you have problem players in your group? Like the rest of the group wants to explore the world, but one of them wants to railroad the story to focus on only one thing. Problem players are always a difficult issue for different GMs, and no GM has one consistent way of dealing with it because no problem player is the same. Now, it could be that your player is just really energized in the story and he really wants to get, or she really just wants to get on with it, or this is a legitimate problem that your player has. My best recommendation to you, if you ever have a problem player who is not meshing with the group, ask them why. Ask them why that's the choice they made as the GM. Just take them aside and say, listen, this is just something I've noticed. What's got you so focused on this sort of thing? Just take it and deal with it normally. The problem is, the reason why there's no good GM tip for it is because of the sheer fact that it's not so much a GM's problem as it is a person problem. And a person problem is as unique as to the person that you have to deal with. So the best thing to do is just ask questions of the player, find out what's going on, and just talk to them like a person and see. And yeah, that's really my best advice for you. I've had a big problem with keeping players focused on the adventure. What do you recommend to keep your players interested and just keep the situation going strong? Honestly, my best recommendation is start running shorter games. And when I say start running shorter games, I don't mean like your games are slow or they're taking too long or anything like that. Start running just really quick, really energetic, short games, and then start lengthening the plot and stringing the plot together as you go along. Give them smaller kind of quest bits to go and just kind of feed them little bits of information to go along. Player retention, it really varies from each GM on how they get it. Me personally, I like to create insane NPCs and really wacky comedy methodology. But if you're just starting out and you don't feel really confident with that, just start with really short, compact adventures that they can kind of gun through and really build up their courage with. And then build yourself up to something bigger, because then they'll have more investment and things like that. All right, that's it for all the questions you guys sent us. But of course, please send us more. And thank you all for following us and liking and subscribing during this bit. Next stop is D20 Live at Con Bravo. And that's going to be Firefly, and we're going to be knee-deep in preparing for that for the next couple of months. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you then. Later. Take the sky from me. Take me out to the black. Tell them I ain't coming back. Burn the